Okay, so this next question is from, again, friend of the show and also former co-founder Nate Parsons.
Yeah.
I believe this one is directed at you, Jay. What do you think of the new DC plan? Anything you're excited for?
All right, rate, review, and subscribe. Click below.
Yeah,
Listen,
As Steven Soderbergh once said, let them all talk.
exactly. Yeah.
if you're gonna get rid of my main man, Jason Momoa,
My man.
as
Gosh, here we
Aquaman,
go. Yeah.
then we're gonna throw hands. we're going
It's gonna go down.
physically
Yes.
fight each other, because that
Yeah.
is one of the best kind of franchise superhero movies ever made. And now you're doing what? You're getting in here with Gamma Dude, whatever, some nobody. I mean, I don't know. James Gunn is good. I liked his Suicide Squad movie. All right, it needed a reset. Here come the comments. The Zack Snyder universe. It was time to die. He was never the right guy
We're
to
getting
build,
canceled
to
now.
construct that universe. He never was. He does not have the sensibilities required to create a universe like that. He is the
This is the last
meathead
episode of the
philosopher
InSession
of our
Film
time,
Podcast.
and he tried to incorporate
Starting to play
those
taps in the background.
sensibilities into this franchise, and what it created was this complete mishmash. And now James Gunn is going to come in here, and what he has done is he has created one of the most heartfelt, best superhero franchises with Guardians of the Galaxy. Kind of bring those sensibilities into the fold. He appears to have a sincere love for the characters that he's making these movies for. Maybe it'll be good. I don't know. We're getting a Batman, the Batman too. That's all I care about.
Yeah, which is an Elseworlds movie.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be part of this new DC
Thank
Studios
God.
connectivity.
But they're also making other Batman movies at the same
It's
time.
called, like The Brave and the Bold, I think it's called. It's meant to be about the relationship between one of the specific Robins. I actually forget who it was.
You guys are going to be excited for the Batman Part 2, but be extremely disappointed in Part 3 when Joaquin Phoenix's Joker
Son of a bitch.
becomes the new
Son of
Joker.
a son. No,
That's what
it's
they're
Barry
gonna do.
Keoghan. No, but Barry Keoghan's already the
I know,
the
I'm just
Joker.
kidding.
No,
His face is going to morph
I was
like
like,
Colin
don't
Farrell's
do that to me,
Johnny
JD.
Depp.
No, I think all honesty, this will be the other take that'll get us canceled. But this actually is a lot more promising than the future of Marvel for me, because it's something newer and something different. And
we gotta
and,
talk
and
about Marvel one of these
because like I feel
No, we
like
don't.
Marvel
we
is
do.
like no, I feel like honestly, like, you know, you look at sort of Marvel and where they are, it feels like they by most audiences, it's starting to wane a little bit. I feel like they could use a little bit of a redirection or a.
It's going to change.
You know, and
We're getting
and
weird. Marvel's gonna get
I understand
very
that, but weird doesn't always mean it's going to be the same amount of success.
No,
and
Iger is
everything.
bringing,
But it's gonna be
Iger's bringing
different.
back kind of the old mentality, which I think is smart, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is oversaturated in the marketplace.
It's a lot, and I think with this, it clearly looks as, I mean, they have this planned out. Honestly, and all, for me personally, we know that a lot of these movies really, I'm the only great news about this for me is that they aren't going to do what a lot of the rumors and all this other stuff was talking about, was trying to take the Batman from Matt Reeves and sort of try to implement it in this or whatever. And I know they're going to do a full like reboot, restart sort of situation and go from there, incorporate almost like a new multiverse or a new thing where like some of the people carry over, but some don't, whatever. I'm curious about it. I mean, honestly, for me, the thing about this is I've genuinely want to see a Superman movie that's good. And I feel as if Man of Steel had all the potential and just did not work for me. And then
The
for
first
years,
half is pretty good.
Yeah, and
the
then
first
for
half of Man of Steel I
years-
kind of like.
years after that, we just never ever decided to go back to that. And I feel really bad for Henry Cavill, and I feel really bad for a lot of the fans who wanted to see
Henry Cavill taking some L's lately.
He really has. Oof. And I just, I'm that was what was interesting to me. Obviously, like a Green Lantern movie kind of looks like, you know, it can't be any worse than the one before. And, and like, But as long as Matt Reeves' vision is kind of kept in pat, and yes, I know there's another Joker movie, I could care less about that. But as long as that movie and its trajectory is left to Matt Reeves' devices, I'm totally fine with whatever the hell they want to do. But again, these aren't like the most interesting franchises to me. Like the most interesting franchises in cinema right now have movies coming out this year. And that for me is like John Wick, and that's Mission Impossible. And even to a certain extent, what will happen in the future with Dune. I'm much more interested in stuff like that.
Aquaman.
And, you know.
Yeah, going back to DC,
I mean,
the Lost Kingdom, baby.
I mean, like, that's the thing about him, too, is it's like they have to get rid of these Snyderverse, I guess, DC movies that they already have. And that Shazam movie looks bad. Like from the trailers alone, it just looks so bad. And then they're going to have to, at a certain point, it'll probably be this weekend at the Super Bowl, release footage for The Flash. And then that whole summer is just going to be a wild ride for them. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a little bumpy at first.
Miller's
but,
world.
You know, exactly. And so I'm JD, I'm curious more than you, because I know you're the big superhero guy around here and everything, what you think about all this.
Well, I mean, I think when it comes to DC, I'm kind of where Jay was talking about, and they just needed a reboot. Yeah. The problem is they brought in Zack Snyder. Maybe he was the wrong guy for it. Maybe he was the right guy for it. I think the problem more than anything is that they were already 5 years behind Marvel, and they
were trying to do the same thing, and
they were trying to catch up way too fast, and that forced a ton of films and contrivances and storylines that just did not come together very well. And then you compound that with this really unfortunate event in Zack Snyder's life regarding one of his children, and you just can't foresee things like that happening. And that, you know, it's heartbreaking, but from a DC marketing budget perspective, it made things all the more challenging, obviously. Yeah. So they needed to find themselves at a line where they can just, you know, cross over into the sand and start something completely new without having to compare themselves to Marvel. So they bring over one of the Marvel guys to do that, ironically, and James Gunn.
Which, it makes me think, like, was he brought on to try and do what he did at Marvel, or because he knows the Marvel game and wants to do something at DC that is anything but the Marvel formula? And that's what I'm not sure about, which I mean, it's interesting to theorize about what his agenda might be.
Well, I mean, I like that. I do like... I'm sorry,
I was just going to say, I mean, knowing James Gunn, like James Gunn's films try to have this subversive quality to them, for better or worse. Mm-hmm. I don't think, if that's his mentality regarding the DC broadly speaking, I don't think he's going to regurgitate Marvel. That just doesn't seem very James Gunn to do.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to do that. And I think we're already seeing the fruit of that. And hey, look, we're not bringing back Henry Cavill. Mm-hmm. We're not bringing back Ben Affleck. We're not bringing back Gal Gadot. Like, you know, we're keeping the problematic child of the Flash for some reason.
I think that Gal Gadot and I think they said that Gal Gadot and Ezra Miller and Momoa, they are open to allowing them to return to those characters, just not the films that they were going to do. I think that's you don't quote me on that.
I think it's and not just that, but maybe even other characters. I know there's a lot of speculation that Jason Momoa will actually be playing Lobo or something like that.
Here's
which I know
question. And sorry, Brendan, you can finish.
No, that's all I had to say is that I know that Momoa has been it's a character I think he'd be itching to play. I think is what I heard.
My question with it is it the wrong play to put a creative at the head of an endeavor like this?
Honestly, I think is
a CEO first. He is like he is a facilitator. And, you know, he has a lot of ideas creatively, but he is not, you know, the creative force behind any of these films. And James Gunn wonder if that is the better way to do this.
It's a good question. I will say this, though. Obviously, James Gunn knows the comics very well, and that helps. And he was over there long enough that I'm sure he was able to see how this was able to work from a business perspective, and he'll be
This
able
is where I
to
think Peter Safran
incorporate
comes
that.
into play, is that I think you have two creatives running things where you have one that's more on the creative side and the other one more on the facilitation side of things. And I think that facilitator, I'm only speculating, I think maybe those facilitating hands will be more governed by Peter Safran, if that's my hypothesis there.
Yeah. And I think, Jay, the model for this isn't even Marvel. It's what's going on over at Lucasfilms with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
And everybody's super enthusiastic about everything going on in Star Wars.
Well, I mean, Andor was one of the more celebrated series this year. Whether
The
you
TV
like
stuff
it,
has been way more successful than a failure.
Yeah.
I mean, The Mandalorian is still one of the more popular shows. You know, like what I'm saying is that at least from Star Wars right now is very much the television shows. They aren't doing movies right now.
They don't.
And so therefore, they have given Filoni and Favreau complete control to help to spearhead those projects, have creatives behind it that fix those visions, and it has worked, and people have really loved those shows. So I think that this could work for that, but for a bigger scale. And if you have an actual plan, like it seems they've mapped out a plan with stories.
That's the big thing.
And have showrunners writing the stuff. He's not writing everything, but he's writing the things that he wants to do. You have somebody involved. I mean, a lot of what Kevin Feige learned from, if we're to be honest with this, he had Favreau there along for the ride very early on in that Marvel phase to sort of help them tool everything together. Then it was Joss Whedon with those
to
Avengers
create a
films.
narrative there.
And build that momentum, and then it branched out to even bigger returns that they could possibly imagine. Because when the first Avengers movie came out, we were all still kind of wondering if it was even going to work. Because the idea of having all those characters together, and then it's
so wild that Jon Favreau is like one of the most important cinematic figures of the 21st century.
He really is.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Pretty wild.
Really is.
So interesting. And with regard to the DC slate, what James Gunn did announce, like, I don't know about you guys, it felt kind of like a partial announcement. Like, I feel like he still has some tricks up his sleeve that he's not revealing yet.
They're waiting on a bunch of stuff.
I think, there's probably bigger things that we're going to hear about, because what we heard about sounds really interesting, but it kind of felt like an incomplete announcement, more of like a palate cleanser. It felt like an appetizer, which I'm not against, but it's hard to make, I guess, judgments or even express excitement when I don't know what the full lineup's going to be yet. It felt it felt kind of all over the place, as if like, okay, here's what we're going to be doing, but it's not the full picture just yet. Just hold off for a bit.
They finally have a plan. Let's see if this actually works out, because the DCEU was a hodgepodge of what the hell are we doing? And now it's decided. And never could decide it. Now they actually have somebody, two people sitting in a room trying to figure this out, playing, putting all the strings together to try to create something. Why not give them a shot? And yes, a creative and then a CEO behind it, I think it could totally work, because you're then at that point making it about story rather than about the commercialization, the profits and everything. It's less machine work, I think, and more genuine at that part. And that's a little bit more optimistic, and it falls in line with usually how Warner Brothers operates. They have always been a director forward.
I hope they maintain that mentality.
Yes,
so
I agree.
Bad.
I agree.
As bad as some of those DC movies were, and they were bad.
Yeah,
they were a person's vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were.
I respect that.